topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Ohio and Michigan. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. For the last 16 years, we have brought you the top experts in their field. We have a great show for you this morning. We got so many calls from our listeners asking us to add a show on business brokers. We were so lucky to find one of the top business brokers in Ohio, Michigan. It's called Great Lake Business Advisors. We have Brad Smith. Good morning, Brad.
It's Brad Ruth, but yes, good morning.
Why can I believe I said Smith? How did that come out of my mouth? I don't even know anybody named Smith. Brad, I got to tell you, I was so impressed. You did your first show with us last month. I was so impressed how many people caught your first show on just YouTube. And I got to tell you, it was such a great show. I know today is going to be amazing. But you know what? A lot of people still don't understand what a business broker does. Can you explain it?
Yeah. So what I do is I work with business owners to help them kind of prepare to sell their business, because a lot of times they're thinking about selling it, or they call me and say, I'm ready to sell my business. And then I'll look at their business and go, well, you're not ready yet. We need to make some changes to your business, how you're running it, so we can maximize the value of that business. And sometimes they're missing standard operating procedures. There's sometimes their financials aren't very clean, or there's just things we got to clean up. So a lot of times I'll work with them, and also I have consultants that I work with in various fields that will help me, with that business to get them ready to go to market. For instance, I've got one right now that they're ready to go. They're in their 70s, but their admin, who is their key person in their business, is retiring, and they need a job description to replace that person, and they need standard operating procedures. So we have a consultant friend of mine that I'm working with, I partner with, that's going to go in. We're going to create standard operating procedures and job descriptions, so that when we take this business to market, it's easier for a buyer to acquire if we've got everything in place for this business. When we go to market, it's more sellable, and it's easier for a business owner to run. And so once we do that, then we do a business value. I've already done a business valuation. We've given an idea what the value of the business is. And then we have a range, and we're going to get to the top end of that range because we've got a lot of these things in place, systems that we didn't have before. That makes it more sellable.
I got to tell you, I sold one of my businesses about 20 years ago. And Brad, I got to tell you, I thought I could do it myself. And what I found out was I was getting phone calls at the office that employees were answering, wanting to know what was going on. I know you've seen this before. A lot of tire kickers that just wasted my time. And a friend of mine said, why don't you get a business broker? And of course, I said, what is a business broker? I ended up hiring one, and I got to tell you, I was so impressed. The amount of work you do before you even realize your first dime.
Yeah. There's a lot of work involved. A lot of business owners will try to sell it on their own. I had a business recently that the business owner's been trying to sell it for 4 years, and and one of them was a restaurant, and they think like someone's going to come in the restaurant and buy it, and they think they have the connections. Well, you can't put it on the real estate market because that's not the right pond to be fishing in. You got to put your business out in an area where buyers are looking for a business, and biz buy sell. And I also is probably the 800-pound gorilla out there that everyone goes to, which is linked to a lot of other websites, plus my website. Plus I have a list of buyers, probably 1,800 to a couple thousand buyers on my list, that when I take a business to market, they know I've got a business, they know it's quality. I only take 1 in 10 businesses that I talk to because I qualify them and make sure it's a sellable business. Typically on the market, you'll see only about 25 to 30% of businesses that you see on biz buy sell will actually sell because they're not ready to sell or they're overpriced. And you just look at it and go, how are they asking a price for this business? It doesn't even make any sense. And so I do all that vetting on the front end of this thing to make sure the business is sellable. So when I take it to market, I don't take a business to market unless I know I can sell it.
Well, one of the things I also learned, Brad, was, your business, especially if you've started from scratch, is your baby. And I thought my business was worth a lot more, but it wasn't selling at that price. So the business broker came in and showed me what my business was really worth. And that was probably the toughest pill to swallow.
Well, I do that every day. I have to tell people their baby's ugly, and it's not something I enjoy doing, but it's the reality of where we're at. It's like putting a business on the market, a car on the market that the Kelley Blue Book says it's worth 50, and we put it on the market at 80, and no one calls. And you go, why is no one calling? Well, it's obvious that you got the car overpriced. Well, business is the same way, just like houses, just like commercial buildings. We know what the market is. We look at the SIC code, we look at the EBITDA, we look at the seller discretionary earnings, and we get a range of value of where we think it's going to sell. And then we'll put it in that range, and typically in the middle to low range, because I like to get people that realize that you're not actually crazy, like you understand the value of your business, and we're going to get multiple buyers that are going to look at it that will have multiple offers. If you put it really high, you have one offer, which is almost like having no offers. You have no leverage. If you have 3 or 4 offers, you can work against each other. You can work out the terms of the deal. We can interview the buyer, make sure it's a good fit, because fit is more important than price in a lot of ways. I really feel that. We want to get the maximum price, but I've seen sellers, that have sold a business for 15% less than what the highest price was, because it was a better fit for their employees, for the overall business model, and the person was a really good fit. Whereas the other one was they just didn't like them, it just didn't fit well. So it's really important that we go through that process, the interview.
We just got our first text in from Michael in Columbus. He wants to know, do you buy and sell businesses?
No, I don't buy businesses. I only help business owners that want to sell their businesses. But I will look at a business. If I have someone come in and go, hey, Brad, I'm looking at this business, what do you think? I can look at it in about 15 minutes to a half an hour and give you a pretty good idea if it's priced right and if you should move forward with it. And I'll do that, at no cost, just to help buyers. I hate to see buyers overpay. I see it all the time. Look at business and I go, you paid what for this? Like, well, the owner offered to me, and everyone think, well, because the owner offers to me, that's special, and I should really take advantage of I should really take advantage of that opportunity. Well, that make sure you have an expert look at that business and make sure it cash flows, make sure the numbers work, because a lot of times it doesn't, and then you buy a business and then you're stuck. So that's what I would recommend.
Here's Philip in Detroit, wants to know, is this a good time of the year to sell your business, and what kind of businesses do you like to sell?
There's not really a good or bad time of the year to sell a business. It's not like homes. It's just completely different. every season's a good season to sell your business. There's never a bad time. Interest rates have an effect, and they've come down, so it's better. It's better now than maybe it was a year ago. But it's it doesn't really matter. The other side of it, where I specialize in, is I do. It's a construction trade, so HVAC, plumbing, electrical companies. I do manufacturing is another. It's a big area of expertise. Distribution companies, and then I do sell a lot of restaurants. I don't love restaurants. I take very few, but I've owned them and I've run them. I know what they look like, and I've sold a lot of restaurants, and I'm good at it because I know what the value is. And I sell the commercial real estate too if they own the real estate. So I do both, but typically I only sell real estate that's involved with a business.
We're getting a lot of text already. This is Norman in Cincinnati wants to know, is the restaurant, we're talking restaurants, is the restaurant business a good business to go into? And what about getting financing? Is it tough to do now?
So restaurants are a tough business to run. Probably one of the toughest, and I've done it, so I understand. I've seen a lot of different businesses. They're one of the toughest businesses to run, but the best way to get in the restaurant business is to buy an existing one, because the systems are in place, the customer base is there, your employees are there, the recipes are there. It's way easier to buy a business, especially a restaurant, than to start from scratch, because then you got to start new employees, a new concept possibly, trying to get the customers to come in on a regular basis, be consistent. I've done it a couple of times. It's really rough. So that's I can talk you into the restaurant business and out of it in about 5 minutes. You just tell me which way you want to go. I mean, it's a challenging business, but it's also a fun business, and I really enjoyed it. You just have to understand, you really got to watch your numbers because the margins are thin. You're somewhere between 5 and 20 would be the high end of bottom line price. Usually your 5 to 15% is pretty typical. As far as SBA financing, restaurants can get financed as long as they cash flow. Businesses that I take to market are sellable. I've got one in Columbus right now that's a very nice business. That's absentee restaurant. Great business. If you go to my website, you'll see it. It's a great business, great cash flow. SBA financing it's already pre-approved. As long as you have a credit score above like 680, you can get SBA financing. You have to have some, it's usually a 10%. It's down payment for a business, which is pretty fair. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. And then it's an SBA financing. And I've got, a line of lenders that I work with that I have them. It's pre-qualify a business before I take it to market. That way my buyers have options of who they feel the most comfortable with.
This is for our second show. There's a lot of text coming in. This is from Susan in Cleveland. She wants to know, what are your feelings on franchises?
So I've owned franchises. I've sold franchises. And here's what I say. Instead of buying a franchise, buy an existing business that has all the systems in place, and the personnel in place and the concept in place. Because the challenge with franchise, I'm not against them. The challenge is they give you the concept in the recipes or the product that you're taking to market, and then you pay the rest of your business career a percentage of that sales. Let's say it's 5% of sales. You're like, oh, in the restaurant business, it's only 5% of sales. Well, 5% of sales could be 50% of profits, or it could be 30 to 40% of profits. So you got to understand that 5% isn't 5% of profit. That's a whole nother conversation. But they would never make it 5% of profit because we can control as business owners what that bottom line profit looks like. So they understand it's as a percentage of sales. So just understand it's really 30% of profits. Not always, depends on the business. Every business is different.
We're here talking to Brad Ruth. He is a business broker, one of the finest business brokers covering Ohio and Michigan. Brad, when should a business owner start thinking about selling their business?
What's that? What was the
When
question
should
again?
when should a business owner start thinking about selling their business?
Well, I think it's important to it's important to start thinking about it if you're at a time in your life when you start thinking about should I sell, or I'm getting burned out or I'm getting tired. That's the time to start thinking about it. And also, you want to be thinking about it when your business is going this way and not this way,
Mm.
because it's hard to sell a business going down because, well, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I just don't want to do anymore. Well, you should be selling, not because once it's going down, the buyer is going to look at it and go, well, what's wrong with this business? Why is it tailing off? Is it really because the business owner is losing motivation, or is the concept getting tired and not working anymore? So it really raises a lot of questions. It's tough to get SBA financing. If it's going like this, it's steady, that's fine. But when it's going down, that's really raised a lot of questions. So you got to start thinking about it. When the burnout starts and you're just and you're at the peak and you're thinking, man, this is awesome. I don't know if it can get any better. Well, maybe you should get out. That's not a bad time to get out.
I want this show to really, for people to understand that, first of all, what you do, but how important it is, Brad, that not to try to do this to yourself. I am a great example of someone who did that. And I saw the difference in trying to sell it myself versus getting a business broker like yourself. And I got to tell you, whatever you make you're worth your weight in gold. It makes a difference in night and day. Just let you handle it. First of all, you're going to tell them, if you can sell their business. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, a lot of people want to sell it. And then I look at it and go, it's not really sellable because it's more of a job. You are the business as a business. If it's you and one other person in your business, you really don't have a business. You have a job that you're selling the job, but it's really not really a business per se. So, and then like what I've got a questionnaire that my sellers will go through about 100 questions about their business. So I can build a 40-page marketing packet called a confidential business review, or it's also called a SIM, a certified information it's memorandum, a couple different ways. But what we want to do is we want to tell the story and answer about 90% of the questions for a potential buyer with the financials. And then we also want to give the story, the history, the products. We don't give employee information. We'll go employee 1, employee 2, but we're not going to give, any employee information out. And no one can see this until they've signed a non-disclosure agreement. So there's a lot of that we're doing. It's probably a month or two ahead of time I'd say about a month if we fast track it, but we go through all these questions. Typically I'll send a seller the questionnaire that's 100 questions. And I'll say, think about all those questions. And you don't have to type all the answers. I used to make them type all the answers. Now we just do an interview. And the interview, we'll ask them all the questions. They'll answer all the questions. And then I'll send it to my VA. And my VA, my virtual assistant, will help me create a confidential business review with the pictures I get from walking through the business, the financial picture that I create by looking at the tax returns, and then the tribal knowledge of the business that will it's going to make a story in a marketing package that really helps. And then we talk to buyers and we interview them.
Brett, I ran an ad. I think it was in USA Today at the time. And I did get a lot of calls, but I got to tell you, 99% of them were tire kickers. And some of them would take up 30 or 45 minutes of my time, and then I would never hear from them again. And again, That's why a business broker makes so much sense. You don't have time to sit there on the phone talking to these, I just call them tire kickers.
Yeah.
You can handle that for them.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want you to do when you're running, when we're trying to sell a business, you keep doing what you're doing and don't change a thing. If you got to fire people, fire people. If you got to do marketing, do marketing. Don't stop doing anything that you're doing, because if you are concentrating on keeping your business running and operating, if you're trying to sell the business, you're way distracted with those phone calls and the things that you're doing, working extra hours and into the night because you're taking all these calls during the day. And then your employees are wondering, like, I do everything, so no one knows. I mean, we don't even really tour the business. We do a lot of Zoom calls because I don't want to disrupt the business. If we do, we go in at night when no one sees us. But a lot of times, I just sold a nice sized plumbing company, and we interviewed 15 buyers, and we had probably 10 or 12 offers, and we didn't have a in-person meeting until after we were in. It's a due diligence process. We handled it all, so it made it easy for my seller, and we wouldn't set up interviews until we had personal financial statements. We have proof of funds. Like they've answered all my interview questions. They've answered my questionnaire. Like, we're pre-screened. So when we bring a buyer to a seller, we've already pre-qualified. This is an active buyer that can make a purchase. And that's who you want to be talking to, not all the tire kickers that I have to talk to that I have to, screen them out and understand, hey, this isn't a fit for you. Because a lot of times they don't have the skill set to run it. And I won't waste my time with my business owner. I mean, they won't be successful.
What's probably the biggest problem that business owners who are getting ready to exit, what do you see as the biggest problem?
I would say the biggest problem is it's like you talked about. It's really about understand the value of their business. They when they think it's worth $3 million and I tell them it's worth $1.5 million, they don't want to hear it. And then they say, well, I'm not selling for less than $3 million. I'm like, well, I can't sell it for that, so I'm not going to waste your time and my time. So I'm just honest with people, because I don't want to get your hopes up to think you can sell it, and even at that price, when I know I can't do it. And a lot of brokers will just take that and go, well, they'll come down. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been through that process. It doesn't work. And then it goes on the market. It gets stale because it's overpriced. And then we drop the price. What's wrong with the business? You're better off coming out with your best price and really, and people really look at it and go, wow, this is nice. And then I just sold a C-store / restaurant. We went on the market at 1.3. We sold at $2 million. We drove the price up. Wow. We knew we were a little underpriced when we went on the market, but we drove the price up to the very best price because they're like, wow, this is a nice opportunity. This is great. And then they all wanted it. And that created a bidding war. And then we just kept on driving the price up. And, and we still got it SBA financed. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like it was overpriced. We got it SBA financed.
I am so glad we have you. How do people reach you?
You can reach me on my website, or you can reach me on my cell. It's 330. It's 524. It's 8205. You can text me. You can call me, or you can email me. If my website is, I think it's on the screen here. It's glbainc.com. So, or on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn also. I do a lot of posts on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Yeah.
And Brad will be back again with us next month. The name of the company again is Great Lakes Business Advisors. Brad, thank you so much. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay, buddy. Hey, that's Brad Ruth. He is a great business broker. We're going to go to a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.